Whispers in the garden. The evening breeze carried the scent of jasmine through the expansive garden of the Parker estate. Eliza Chen adjusted the sleeve of her emerald gown, one hand resting protectively over her 5-month pregnant belly. Tonight was meant to be special, their 5th wedding anniversary, celebrated in the extravagant way only her husband, tech mogul Victor Parker, knew how. "Mrs. Parker, the guests are asking for you," said a young server, bowing slightly before retreating. Eliza nodded, taking a moment to gather herself. Pregnancy had been harder than expected, especially while maintaining her role as the poised wife of San Francisco's most celebrated entrepreneur. She had given up her promising career as a marine biologist to support Victor's vision, becoming the perfect hostess, philanthropist, and soon-to-be mother to his heir. She made her way through the garden's stone pathway, admiring how the fairy lights transformed their home into something magical. Victor had spared no expense: live music, renowned chefs, and a guest list that read like a Forbes ranking. Yet he himself was nowhere to be seen. "Have you seen my husband?" she asked Julian, their household manager. "I believe Mr. Parker stepped inside to take a call, ma'am. Something about the Singapore merger." Eliza smiled gratefully and headed toward the house. The cool marble floor was a relief after hours in heels. As she approached Victor's study, she heard laughter, soft, intimate, and distinctly feminine. Eliza slowed her steps, suddenly aware of her racing heart. "It's almost done, Olivia. Once the Parker legacy is secured, the transition will be seamless." Victor's voice, smooth as aged whiskey, carried through the partially open door. "And she suspects nothing?" The woman's voice was silk and venom. "Eliza is focused on the baby. Besides, she's always been wonderfully uncomplicated. After the birth, we'll announce my need to relocate to Tokyo. The separation will appear amicable." "And your board won't question the divorce?" Olivia asked. "They only care about optics. A single CEO isn't ideal, but better than one trapped in a passionless marriage. I've already transferred significant assets offshore. Her settlement will be generous, but controlled." Eliza pressed her hand against the wall, steadying herself as the room seemed to spin. 5 years of marriage, countless sacrifices, and their unborn child, all reduced to corporate strategy. "And what about this?" Olivia's voice dropped lower. A pause, then Victor's familiar chuckle. "That ring was always meant for you. I bought it 3 years ago, before Eliza's unexpected pregnancy complicated things." Eliza stepped back, a hot tear sliding down her cheek. She moved silently toward the garden doors, muscle memory guiding her while her mind raced. Outside, she plastered on a smile as a photographer approached. "Mrs. Parker, a photo for the Chronicles Society page?" She nodded, years of practice hiding her trembling hands. "Of course." Across the garden, she caught sight of Sophia Reed, her college roommate and current head of legal at a rival tech firm. Their eyes met, and something in Eliza's expression must have betrayed her, because Sophia immediately excused herself from her conversation and made her way over. "Liz, what's wrong?" Sophia whispered, taking Eliza's elbow and guiding her toward a private corner. "I need your help," Eliza said, her voice barely audible over the string quartet. "And I need to be very, very careful about what happens next." In the golden light of their perfect anniversary party, as waiters passed champagne she couldn't drink and guests celebrated a marriage that had just shattered, Eliza Chen made her first independent decision in 5 years. She would not break. She would not scream. She would not give Victor Parker the satisfaction of her public pain. Instead, she would plan. Broken promises. The autumn rain battered against the windows of Sophia's downtown loft as Eliza stared at the evidence spread across the coffee table. 3 weeks had passed since the anniversary party, and each day had been an exercise in deception, smiling at breakfast, attending board functions, all while Victor believed his secret remained safe. "The offshore accounts are substantial," Sophia said, sliding financial documents toward Eliza. "He's been moving money to the Caymans for nearly 2 years, coincidentally around the time he hired Olivia Chang as his strategic consultant." Eliza nodded, absently rubbing her growing belly. And the prenup? Has a morality clause. Sophia's lips curved into a rare smile. Infidelity renders it void if proven with clear evidence. The baby kicked, a small flutter of solidarity that brought tears to Eliza's eyes. We have the recordings from his study, the financial trails, and the hotel receipts your investigator found. But we need irrefutable proof that the entire board will recognize, Sophia finished. Something public enough that Victor can't deny or bury it. A knock at the door interrupted them. Sophia's assistant entered with a familiar face. James Wright, Eliza's former research partner from her marine biology days. Tall and steady, with eyes that had always reminded her of the ocean after a storm. He looked exactly as he had when they'd worked together on coral restoration projects years ago. "James," Eliza breathed, suddenly conscious of her disheveled appearance. He crossed the room in 3 strides, hesitating before gently embracing her. "Sophia told me everything." "I'm so sorry, Liz." "I don't need pity," she said, pulling back slightly. "I need allies." James nodded, all business now. "That's why I'm here." Parker Technologies' annual Ocean Conservation Gala is next month. Your husband's company is announcing a $100 million initiative that Olivia Chang orchestrated. Every tech executive and environmental foundation will attend. And I'm supposed to be the glowing, expectant mother presenting the initiative? Eliza added bitterly. What if instead you present something else entirely? James suggested, pulling out his phone to show an email thread. Victor and Olivia have been using the foundation as a personal slush fund. Environmental projects announced with great fanfare, then quietly abandoned once the PR value faded. I've documented at least 7 instances. Sophia leaned forward. That's corporate fraud involving charitable donations. The IRS would be very interested. Eliza stood, pacing the room as her mind raced. The gala's in 4 weeks. Victor expects me to deliver a speech he and Olivia prepared, celebrating their vision while they plan their future together. So write a different speech, James said quietly. Later that night, after Sophia had fallen asleep on the couch surrounded by legal documents, Eliza found James on the balcony watching the city lights through the rain. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, joining him at the railing. He turned, his expression serious. "Do you remember our research vessel getting caught in that storm off Catalina? How everyone panicked except you," she smiled faintly. "I was terrified. But you were calm, methodical. You saved our entire year's work while the boat nearly capsized." He looked at her with something like reverence. "That's who you've always been, Eliza, not Victor Parker's convenient wife, a force of nature disguised as a person." Tears welled unexpectedly. In 5 years of marriage, Victor had never seen her so clearly. "The Eliza I knew wouldn't let anyone take away her power," James continued. "She would fight, but smartly, strategically." She looked down at her wedding ring, twisting it thoughtfully. "I need to go back to the house tomorrow. Maintain appearances while we prepare." "Are you sure that's safe?" "Victor won't hurt me physically. His reputation is too important," her voice hardened. "And I need access to his private servers." James looked concerned. "Promise me you'll be careful. For both of you," he added, glancing at her belly. That night, Eliza dreamed of the ocean. Not calm and beautiful as in her research days, but powerful and vengeful, sweeping away everything in its path. She woke feeling strangely peaceful, her decision crystallized. Victor Parker had underestimated her once. He wouldn't have the opportunity to make that mistake again. The unveiling. The Ocean Conservation Gala transformed the San Francisco Opera House into an underwater fantasy. Azure lighting cast rippling shadows across marble columns, while ice sculptures of endangered marine life glistened beside sustainable seafood displays. The city's elite mingled in evening wear that cost more than most annual salaries. Eliza stood in the green room, reviewing her note cards one last time as the makeup artist applied finishing touches. Her midnight blue gown had been specially designed to accentuate her pregnancy, Victor's idea, positioning them as the perfect power couple creating both technological and familial legacies. "You look radiant," Victor said, appearing in the doorway. Handsome in his tuxedo, he played the doting husband flawlessly, his hand resting possessively on her shoulder. The speech reads perfectly. Olivia made some final adjustments to emphasize our commitment to future generations. Eliza smiled, meeting his eyes in the mirror. How thoughtful of her. She's quite brilliant, Victor replied, oblivious to the irony. The board is considering making her position permanent. I'm sure they'll make the right decision, Eliza said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. She glanced at her watch. James and Sophia would already be in position. Shouldn't you greet the lieutenant governor? I'll be out shortly. After Victor left, Eliza removed a small USB drive from her clutch, replacing the presentation file loaded on the event computer. Then she texted Sophia, "Everything ready?" The reply came instantly, "All set." Board members seated front row. Press has embargoed statement. On stage, Victor was magnetic, outlining Parker Technologies' commitment to ocean preservation with practiced sincerity. The audience, wealthy donors, celebrities, politicians, nodded appreciatively at his pledges. And now, Victor concluded, it's my great pleasure to introduce the true heart behind our foundation's mission, my brilliant wife and the mother of our future child, Eliza Chen Parker. Applause filled the hall as Eliza took the stage, embracing Victor briefly before taking her position at the podium. Camera flashes captured their perfect image, power couple extraordinaire. "Good evening," she began, her voice clear and composed. "Tonight we celebrate commitments to our oceans, to our planet, and to truth." She clicked the presentation remote, but instead of the planned slides, financial documents appeared on the massive screen behind her. Victor shifted in his seat, confusion crossing his features. Parker Foundation has indeed collected over $300 million for marine conservation, Eliza continued. Unfortunately, only 14% has reached actual environmental initiatives. Murmurs rippled through the audience as more documents appeared. Offshore accounts, private jet receipts, property purchases. The remainder has funded private islands, luxury retreats classified as research facilities, and executive compensation packages. She clicked again, revealing a beachfront villa. Like this Maldives property, purchased last year as a coral restoration headquarters that mysteriously has no laboratory equipment but does feature 7 bedrooms and a private chef. Victor stood abruptly, moving toward the stage, but security, quietly replaced with Sophia's team, blocked his path. Perhaps most disturbing, Eliza continued, her voice never wavering. Are the foundation funds diverted to personal accounts connected to my husband and his strategic consultant, Olivia Chang, with whom he's been planning not just corporate strategy, but a personal future as well? Gasps echoed through the hall as the screen displayed text messages, hotel receipts, and finally, a recording from their anniversary party. Victor's voice crystal clear as he discussed divorcing his pregnant wife. Olivia Chang, resplendent in red at a front table, turned ghostly pale. "Ladies and gentlemen," Eliza said, her hand resting protectively on her belly, "I cannot in good conscience remain silent while donors are deceived and our oceans suffer. As of this evening, I've provided all documentation to the appropriate authorities and the Foundation's Board of Directors." She looked directly at Victor, who stood frozen in the aisle. "I came to this marriage bringing my whole heart and scientific expertise. I leave taking only what I created, this child and my dignity." She removed her wedding ring, placing it on the podium. "The rest, including the consequences of your actions, remains yours, Victor." The room erupted in chaos as Eliza stepped away from the microphone. James appeared at the side stairs, offering his hand as she descended with quiet grace, leaving behind the fragments of her shattered marriage and the beginning of Victor Parker's downfall. Part 4. Aftermath and Allies Mourning. Sunlight streamed through the beach house windows as Eliza reviewed another settlement offer. 3 months had passed since the gala, and the media frenzy had barely subsided. Victor faced federal charges for fraud and tax evasion, while Parker Technologies' stock had plummeted 40%. Olivia Chang had fled to Singapore, only to discover her access to the offshore accounts mysteriously revoked. "They're getting desperate," Sophia observed, setting a cup of herbal tea beside Eliza. "This offer is substantially better than yesterday's." Eliza sighed, resting her hands on her now prominent belly. "It's not about the money. I want control of the foundation to actually fulfill the promises made to donors, which is exactly why you should take this deal," James called from the kitchen where he was preparing breakfast. Since the gala, he'd appointed himself her unofficial protector, finding this remote Monterey property where she could escape the press and preparing for the baby's arrival with unexpected enthusiasm. Sophia nodded agreement. "They're offering 51% control of the foundation plus the settlement. Take it before Victor finds another loophole." Eliza looked out at the ocean, its rhythmic waves a comfort she'd missed during her years in Victor's carefully controlled world. "I'll sign today," she decided. "It's time to end this chapter." Later that afternoon, as Sophia departed with the signed papers, Eliza found James setting up monitoring equipment on the deck. "What's this?" she asked, easing herself into a chair. "Portable lab," he explained, his face lighting up with boyish excitement. "The kelp forest recovery data from this cove could support your proposal to revitalize the Foundation's local conservation efforts." She watched him work. This man who had stepped back into her life at her darkest moment and never once treated her as fragile or broken. Unlike Victor, who had viewed her pregnancy as a strategic complication, James had accompanied her to doctor's appointments, assembled nursery furniture, and spent evenings reading marine biology journals to her belly. "Why did we lose touch, James?" she asked suddenly, his hands stilled on the equipment. "You remember our research vessel's last expedition? When you got that call from Victor after he saw your TED Talk." She nodded. Victor had been so charming then, flying to their remote research station just to meet the brilliant scientist changing how we understand coastal ecosystems. "You were so excited about his vision for technological solutions to environmental problems." James adjusted a sensor, not meeting her eyes. "And I was just your research partner with grant funding always in jeopardy." "That's not how I saw you," she said softly. He looked up then, vulnerability clear in his expression. "I know, but watching you light up around him, I thought you'd found your perfect match. Someone who could give you the platform your brilliance deserved?" He shrugged. Stepping aside seemed the honorable choice. The baby kicked forcefully, making Eliza gasp and laugh simultaneously. "Someone has opinions about that logic." James knelt beside her chair, hesitantly placing his hand on her belly when she guided it there. His wonder at the strong movements beneath his palm made her heart ache with possibilities, of what might have been, of what still could be. "I've been offered a position at Scripps Institution," she said, "leading their climate change response division. After the baby comes," pride bloomed across his features, "they'd be lucky to have you." "It's in San Diego," she added, watching his reaction carefully. Something like hope flickered in his eyes. "I hear the kelp forests there need studying, too." Before she could respond, a sharp pain seized her, taking her breath away. James noticed immediately, his expression changing to alarm. "Eliza, I think," she managed between clenched teeth. "Your godchild is impatient to meet you." 16 hours later, with James never leaving her side, Eliza welcomed Coral Maya Chen into the world, a tiny, fierce girl with her mother's determination and a future unlimited by anyone's expectations. "Blooming again, Dr. Chen. They're ready for you in Conference Room A." Eliza looked up from her microscope, smiling at her assistant. "The board can wait 5 more minutes. These samples won't analyze themselves." 1 year after Coral's birth, Eliza had fully reclaimed her scientific identity. The Scripps position had evolved into directing the newly established Chen Foundation for Marine Renewal, funded by her settlement and donations that had flooded in after the Parker technology scandal. She gathered her presentation materials and checked her reflection quickly. The woman looking back barely resembled Victor Parker's polished wife. This Eliza wore her hair in practical waves, Her only jewelry, a pendant containing a tiny sample of the first coral her daughter had helped plant in their restoration program. The boardroom fell silent as she entered. Representatives from major environmental organizations, government agencies, and ethical investment firms waited expectantly. "Thank you for coming," she began, launching into her presentation of the Foundation's first-year results. "Our community-based approach has already restored 17 acres of kelp forest and established 5 coral nurseries across damaged Pacific reefs." As questions followed, Eliza noticed James slipping quietly into the back of the room, Coral perched on his hip. Their eyes met briefly, his filled with that same steady support that had become her touchstone. The past year had brought healing neither had rushed. James had taken a research position at Scripps, close enough to be present in Coral's life, but maintaining his own apartment despite increasingly spending nights on Eliza's couch after late evenings, discussing research or simply watching the ocean from her deck. After the meeting adjourned to a reception in the atrium, Eliza made her way to them through congratulatory handshakes and business cards. "Mama!" Coral reached out with perfect tiny fingers, her face lighting up. Eliza took her daughter, breathing in her sweet scent. "Were you good for James?" "She helped me calibrate salinity sensors," James reported seriously. "Very talented." "The scientific community's not ready for her brilliance," Eliza laughed. As they moved through the reception, Eliza was struck by how natural they appeared, a family in all but official designation. The thought no longer frightened her as it once had. Later, with Coral asleep in her travel crib in Eliza's office, they stood on the institution's cliffside balcony watching the sunset paint the Pacific in breathtaking colors. "The Australian Great Barrier Reef Authority approved our proposal," James said. "They want us to implement the regeneration protocol you designed." "Us?" she questioned, looking up at him. He met her gaze, unwavering. "I go where you and Coral go, if you'll have me." The simplicity of his declaration, absent of the grandiose promises Victor had made and broken, moved her deeply. "I spent 5 years in a marriage where I was valuable, primarily as an accessory," she said quietly. "I can't do that again." "I've been in love with you since you corrected my research methodology 12 years ago," he replied, a smile tugging at his lips. "I never wanted an accessory. I wanted a partner who terrified and inspired me in equal measure." The evening breeze carried the scent of salt and possibilities, as Eliza considered the journey that had brought her here, from the betrayal that had nearly broken her to this moment of perfect clarity. "Australia is beautiful this time of year," she said finally. "Coral should see the reef her namesake comes from." James's smile broadened as he understood her meaning. Slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, he drew her into his arms. Unlike Victor's practiced embraces, James held her as if she were simultaneously precious and powerful, which, she realized, was exactly how he'd always seen her. As the last light faded from the horizon, Eliza Chen kissed James right on their cliffside sanctuary, not as a woman reborn from betrayal, but as one who had finally returned to her true self, oceanographer, mother, and now, heart open to the tide of second chances that had carried her home. In her office, baby Coral slept peacefully, secure in a world where her mother had shown her that endings were often just new beginnings in disguise.